appropriate for the Smithsonian. Gone into the Smithsonian, and he's effectively now has some random person deciding what is appropriate for the Smithsonian to teach in terms of American history, things that don't offend parts of the MAGA base, right? So we're now literally reviewing parts of American history and parts of American culture to make sure it comports with Dear Leader and what the MAGA organization.
Okay, so I have seen this clip go around a little bit online, and I was like, let me finally just go ahead and check it out. And so we're going to check it out together. But this is Jillian Michaels. Apparently, she took down the whole panel of CNN over something about slavery or something. Like, I mean, I saw it all over my Twitter. The left, I hate using the left, but there's times where you have to use this term, and this is appropriate. So the left is losing their mind over some comment she made about slavery or something happening with the Smithsonian or something. So we're going to see Jillian Michaels, who is going to dismantle and tackle the whole panel over at CNN. And let's see what happens afterwards. Let's see what this is about, if it's even worth it. A lot of times at the left, they do get so dramatic that I'm kind of leaning more towards already that it's not that deep.
Some of those things that are in there? Because have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that we could talk about.
Okay.
Like,
he's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No, okay. He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look at slavery, let's talk about the fact
that slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
You know, it's funny because when Jillian Michaels makes that comment that less than 2% of white people own slaves, she's actually right, but she never will go into who actually owned most of the slaves and actually who funded the transatlantic slave trade. See, these are the things in history, like there's always a little something that's missing, and then if you talk about it, somehow, you know, you get called names, like, I don't know, anti-Semitic. But anyway, so, you know, but the point is, it's like, this is why these discussions are always extremely superficial to me, because we never really get to the crux of anything. But she is right about this, that it was not only black people who were slaves. And I do think that it is important that black people know this, because we've made this our thing so much, like black folk make this their thing so much, slavery, that they forget that they're worth more. Not all black people do this, but enough with the struggle session. And I know black people who say that themselves, like, enough with the struggle movies, with the, you know, Eyes of Slave movies and all of that. Like, you know, I think it is important to say, hey, let's just, you know, maybe move on from this a little bit.
White people were the slave owners.
In America, the first race to try to end slavery?
Well, what's controversial? I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that,
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history. Okay. In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. Like, for example, every single exhibit, I have a list of every single one. Like, people migrated from Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't actually know what's in there. Do you know that when you walk in the front door, the first thing you see is the gay flag?
Jillian, you have a lot of stuff in front of you.
Yeah, I do, because I don't, because here's the thing.
Are you talking about?
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
There's one called Change Your Game, right? This has been an installation there. Is gender testing fair in sports? Does that, and then it goes on to talk about how it's complex to do gender testing in sports. It's not complex. It's basic science. That's untrue. It's XX chromosome, XY chromosome. That's sports. Is it fair to have biological men competing against biological women in sports?
I don't understand what's going on with Jillian Michaels, because she's about to throw the whole argument. Like, she was on her way to saying something good. Why is this the bread and butter of conservatism? Like, why? You know, like conservative influencers, excuse me, not like actual conservative people.
No, but why is this in the Smithsonian? So it's been completely captured.
First of all, I don't.
And it's totally partisan.
We don't. First of all, we don't have time to litigate all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument. And everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Excuse me.
It's like, I can't believe you're trying to suggest, that slavery is a good
clear,
thing.
you brought up race.
No,
this was a conversation about the arts, and you brought up race.
It isn't.
You brought up.
But the whole point of this is that the issue
you brought up slavery, and you brought up the question of whether. You brought up the question of whether or not slavery in the United States is about race. The answer is yes.
I did not say
in the United States
don't straw man my argument,
race.
because that's not what I said.
So what are you
brought
talking
up
about?
Slavery. And what I was talking about is that this isn't really about that. When you make every single exhibit about white imperialism when it isn't relevant at all, that is a problem. So when you're talking about Cubans leaving Cuba and you make it about white people bad, that's not accurate.
Can I just say, zooming
That's
out,
my point.
All right, we're going to move on.
I was saying on the arts thing, I think why this is
Actually,
gone into this.
wanted to hear a little bit more about that. But okay, so here's the thing that's going to piss everybody off. I don't think that slavery was about race when it started. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and whitewash the atrocities of the things that happened in the past here in America during the times of slavery. Okay, I'm sure there was some really bad treatment around that time. But see, the thing is, I wasn't there, so I don't know. And the thing is, not all the treatment was bad too. And there were slaves who did not want to leave because they actually had a relationship with their owner. Listen, it's just the truth. It doesn't sound good. Black people will hear me say this and be like, how could you say something like that? But it's freaking true. I went to South Carolina. I've seen these like exhibits and stuff, these letters written by these, these former slaves, or like former slaves who, pictures of them that were still in the plantations, like generations and generations later after they were freed, and they were still there. And I visited these places. So like, I'm not saying that that's the only, the only story about like trying to make it seem like it was happy slaves. No, because like there were certain ponds that were in South Carolina. They'll show you like in the Magnolias, some of the ponds that you'll see, they were for rice to grow rice, so you had to make it real marshland. A lot of those ponds were dug out by slaves with like spoons in like their hands, and that's a fact, right? And that's a fact, and that's not easy. That's hard work. That's back-breaking work. And the houses they lived in, was small, like 16 people, to like a 2-room like little cubby, right? So I'm not here to act like oh, it was good that it happened. Absolutely not. I'm not. It's a thing. It's a system across the world that happened, but it happened also to Irish people. Like it did happen to like other people. And I think that part is important to know too. Now, and again, of course, there was a class society that happened after with slavery. There's racism. We know this, right? But it cannot be where we do keep going back to this, like, like, golly, like where people harp on it so much that they place a box around their life. When I went to those like old houses and stuff in South Carolina, my main thing, I was like, I need to get my life under control so that I can, like, I need to live better. Okay? Like, I need to live much better. Like, I need to be doing more, because the Lord has blessed me to be born in a time like this where I don't have to dig out a pond, with a spoon and my hands. All right? I'm not into forced integration or anything like that, but I'm a realist. I don't have time to think about the past and get so angry that I shut doors for myself. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do. And now they live in a different kind of slave mentality. But I think there was another clip to this that I want to kind of look at, because like everybody was like going off about this. You know what I hate is that CNN never puts out like the whole clips. Like they just put out like a little bit. Like it's just so annoying. But she didn't do that great either. She could have did better with this. It all starts from the same part. I guess this is what you said. Okay, so for anyone watching me on CNN tonight, Battling It Out with Abby Phillip's show, this is one of the Smithsonian exhibits I was referencing. Trump is not trying to erase slavery by suggesting some of the installations there are inaccurate and biased. Notice how it omits the fact that Cubans fled Castro's communist regime, instead framing the crisis solely as a result of U.S. support for dictators, a misleading oversimplification. While the U.S. did back Batista, an unpopular and corrupt leader, mass immigration began after Castro seized power in 1959. Cuba became a one-party communist state allied with the Soviet Union. Political opponents, journalists, and business owners were jailed, executed, or driven to exile. Private property was nationalized, dissent was criminalized. Kind of sounds like what's going to happen here today. Like the rest of the exhibit, this framing reduces a complex history to a narrative in which the United States alone destabilized the developing world. I oppose interventionist U.S. foreign policy, but this is not an honest or complete portrayal of what happened in Cuba, period. Okay, so this is two different stories, and I'm not sure that I can actually really give her the full, I can't say that I'm giving her the full benefit because, sorry, the truth is that our establishment has destroyed a lot of developing countries because they always want to go ahead and promote so-called democracy, and our system doesn't work in other countries, okay? Our system is special to us as Americans, but believe me, there's a lot of places that dictatorship just simply works, and it's time for people to grow up and understand that, right? Like, stop living in some fantasy world. Leave other governments alone. I'm sorry, we do regime change, so I can't jump the gun and be like, oh, Jillian is right here. I'd have to look into this first. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon with this one. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I'm a realist. I look at geopolitics all the time, so I don't know. There's a lot of things, unfortunately, and in the Caribbean that this establishment has done that a lot of people do not know about. And then people get so, they take it so personal that if you say that, then they're going to say, they're going to say to you, oh, you just hate the country. Bro, I never said I hated the country, bro, but reality is reality, okay? I think it's time that we start realizing reality. But there was, some people who were, really crying about it, but I guess it just keeps, oh, dear. Are you serious? It's just so annoying. That's a boy. That cannot be a girl. Are we? All right, y'all. We done ran into something else. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.